Hey guys, welcome to Discussion Help for your week one. This one is going to be about how to find the CPU that you're looking for. Some of you have never done this before, don't know much about hardware and computers. So I'm going to try to make it easy for you, and then you can do the understanding on your own by going to reviews and reading your book. The first discussion asks you basically to find a CPU and a motherboard in between a $350 and $450 budget. You're going to use this for assignment number 3, so you want to take it serious enough that when you build a computer in assignment number 3, things make sense to you. The CPU must be either an Intel or an AMD environment. The Intel manufacturer is probably a little bit more popular. I won't say better, but it does benchmark in some areas a lot better than the AMD processor. But AMD is still a good choice nowadays. It depends what you want. Most people choose Intel. I would suggest that you probably stick with a Core 2 quad between these numbers with a socket 775. The socket is nothing more than the amount of pins the CPU has, and it's part of its platform or footprint, if you will. You need to know that because when you pick a motherboard, it has to basically match the socket on the motherboard. Otherwise, they won't be compatible with each other and it will not work. If you go with an Intel i7, you're looking at a larger socket, a 1366, and a lot more money. So it might not fit in your budget, but it's your choice, whatever you find. So how do we get started? Well, you decide Intel or AMD by going through Intel's website or AMD's website. You can Google them, intel.com or amd.com. And then you can go to some of these helpful links that we've given you. tomshardware.com for the charts, probably the first choice for me. Here you see that they have performance charts based on the 2009 desktop CPUs, which is what you're looking for, a processor for 2009, a new one. Since you're looking for reviews, you're first going to see the benchmarks before you start looking at all the reviews. And benchmarks tells you how good is something run, how fast is it, is it what I want and what I'm looking for in a computer. So we'll click on 3D Mark Vantage 1.02 CPU since it has a CPU score, because we really don't want to know about GPU scores, we don't want to know about memory, we don't want to know about video editing that has to do with higher resolutions and video cards at this moment. We can collect all this data and put it together, but let's just stick with one right now to make it easy. So we'll click on CPU scores, and then from there, the larger the actual score, the better the processor or the more efficient or faster it did the job. So you can see the Intel Core i7-975 Extreme Edition is really the kick butt processor right now. It runs at 3.4 gigahertz, and it has a 1066 DDR3 memory type advantage with a 1 megabyte L2 and 8 megabyte L3. Cache is very important, and cache is set on L1, L2, and L3 environments. L2 is what normally you're going to find in many of the consumer and higher end type of processors, but when you get to workstations, you start seeing a lot of the L3. So this processor wouldn't be no good for a project because, as you see, Newegg has it for $1,000 and PC Connection for $1,100. So we want to go somewhere in the $200, $250 range. We would have to start moving down here to these processors. And many of them are good. It doesn't really matter which one. You start looking at the benchmarks and start seeing which one is best for you and what you read. We can do the Intel Core 2 Quad 6600 as an example. So from that point, I would go to PriceWatch, which is another example link that we give you. And when you get to PriceWatch, click on CPUs and go for that processor that you were looking for, which in this case was a Core 2 Quad Q6600. You see it there for $199, and there's the processor, and here are the specs. Socket 775. Remember, that's very important. Do some reviews in Google's. Look at the manufacturer's website, intel.com, and that will be it for your processor. And all I need to know is why you picked it, the websites, and basically the specs. All right. If you have any questions, use this forum to ask those. Thank you.